We're an island nation, drawn to the sea that surrounds us. A playground for some. For others, it's where they make their living. But the sea's unpredictable.
Things with the seas, you've got to respect it. The sea will do what the sea wants to do.
There to save our lives is a volunteer army of over 5,000 ordinary people, ready to leave their jobs, their families, and race to our rescue.
When the pager goes off, your heart races. You just want to do the right thing.
Straight out, oh my God.
Seconds can make the difference between life and death.
You come to me first. Go, man! Go!
There's no better sight than that ship coming through the water. There's no better sight.
Equipped with their own cameras.
Am I recording?
Yeah, it's flashing.
The crews give us a unique insight into every call-out, as only they see it.
It's all right, I got you.
I got you, Daniel.
For those who risk their lives, it has become a way of life.
Bringing people back to their loved ones is what it's all about. You know, that's what we do the job.
They saved my life. They absolutely saved my life.
Hold on!
On the west coast of Ireland, at the mouth of the Owen Glynn River, is the town of Clifden.
We're right on the western coast of County Galway, just at the foot of the 12 Bens mountain range, so very scenic. It's a small town where you walk down the street, you generally know the person that you're going to meet and say hello.
There's been a lifeboat station here since 1989.
Our station, it's a very family-orientated station, I suppose. It's like you have your own family at home and you have your RNLI family, you know, and that's the best way of describing it. They're all real big into the lifeboat and tell you all the different classes of boats and what have you, you know. They'll definitely all join up, I'd say.
We all live really close to the water. It's a treacherous coast and there has been vessels lost over the years, overcome by weather, reefs and rocks and breakers. Like a lot of coastal communities, you know, we've had our fair share of tragedy. We do as much as we can to try and avoid that happening, you know.
September. Clear skies, but out to sea an Atlantic swell is developing.
The first information was there was a man on Inishark Island whose yacht had maybe drifted away from him.
Inishark is an uninhabited island.
You'd want to be pretty stoked to be coming around here on a yacht. It's not for the faint of heart.
The team launched both their Shannon class all-weather boat and the faster lightweight Atlantic 85 to enable them to get inshore once they reach location.
I said to the lads going out, I said, lads, there's nowhere to land a boat on the south side of Inishark. It's cliffs. And it's breakers, like there's no, you know, there's nowhere safely to get on. And all I was thinking about, mind, this could end terribly if we don't, you know, get there quick.
When I hear Inishark Island, I initially know it's quite a spin. So it's about 12 nautical miles. It's going to take us 25 minutes, depending on conditions, to get on scene.
En route, the crew maintain regular contact with the Coast Guard and receive more information about the casualty.
They told us he was on the island, and I was trying to figure out how he got on the island.
If someone's taking the decision to abandon their vessel, it's because that environment they're on is no longer sustainable, that vessel is no longer the safest place to be. We didn't probably appreciate the seriousness of the call out till we arrived on scene. We realised that, you know, it was a potentially serious situation. You could see by the angle the mast was at that it was hard aground, it was heeled over, it was being pounded by waves, and it was just reacting quite violently against the shoreline.
As soon as I arrived on scene, I just thought, man, there's no way we're going to get this boat out of here, like, because there was... We got a line on her, we would have pulled her to bits, like, do you know what I mean? There was no... She was getting smashed. Is this going to transpire into the somebody on the yacht? There's somebody trapped in under the yacht?
As the crew look on, helpless to save the vessel, they spot the casualty on the rocks just meters above the damaged yacht.
As soon as I saw him there, he started walking down towards the water's edge, and my main concern was, like, if this guy comes down much further, a wave's going to catch him.
Although the helicopter was en route and probably the best option for extraction for this casualty, given the sea conditions, you know, we were concerned that, you know, he might have picked up an injury or two, just given the hazardous shoreline and conditions. So we felt we needed to put a crew member ashore.
But the 3-meter swell and jagged rocky shoreline make putting someone on the island both dangerous and difficult.
It was just after low water, so the tide had started to fill. The waves had started to crash up on the boat and were really making the area it was in pretty inaccessible.
To prepare for situations like these, the crews practice a technique called veering down. The boat drops anchor, then releases the anchor line little by little and back the boat gradually towards the shore.
As a helm of the Atlantic 85, it is the first time I've ever veered down on a call-out.
The danger is when you're in that position, if your anchor goes, you're just straight back on top of the rocks, you know what I mean? And God forbid, you know, I don't like thinking of those scenarios too often.
To help protect the inshore boat from the worst of the waves, the larger all-weather boat moves into a shielding position.
So the Shannon was actually taking all the, you know, most of the battering, if you like. I mean, they still had a tough enough job to do there, but it took the sting out of it for them, you know.
I had a look at the shoreline. I picked a good point in terms of getting a crew member ashore.
Alan, he had a plan in his head. When he was happy that we were close enough and told me that I'm going ashore. Okay, I said. It can be a bit daunting, but you time it right and you get a little bit of a lull and you just go. You don't hesitate. Like, what was going through my mind is get on that rock, stay on the rock, don't slip off it. I leapt, landed on all fours, made sure I was fairly stable and I could stand up, and that was the first bit done.
Safely ashore, Ian must find out the casualty's condition and if he is alone.
He was still looking out to sea at the all-weather boat, and I kind of walked up along beside him. We came away from the water a bit more, sat down, I'd done a quick assessment to see how he was, and he confirmed he was by himself, that was a great relief, because we couldn't see anybody else, and if we were told there was something else, that would be another level altogether.
With the helicopter inbound to extract them, all Ian and the casualty can do is wait and watch the boat being broken up by the pounding sea.
It wasn't until I was actually stood next to the yacht that I could start to hear the fiberglass crunching. Yeah, being a sailor myself, that's a horrible sound.
You could hear the mast getting smashed on the rocks. Yeah, it was getting hammered. You know, that was it. It was just breaking up.
I wouldn't think anybody wants to hear that sound. It's no, that was the worst part ever. The wind was howling, and it was just drowning the boat constantly.
Michael had only just bought the yacht at auction and spent the previous week sailing it from England around the Irish coast to his home in Galway. But as his journey progressed, Michael discovered that the boat he'd bought was not what he'd hoped it would be.
A lot of navigation equipment and tools and things had been taken off the boat. I ended up navigating by iPod because none of the equipment was usable.
Despite this, Michael decided to continue his journey, confident that years of sailing experience and some adjustments to his route would see him safely home.
So I kept going through the night, and that's when I got into trouble as well, you know. It just changed, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and gradually worse and worse the cushions and things were floating out, you know, that sound stage, you know, it was kind of scary, you know. And then at this point, the engine started to knock. I'm just looking at the island and I'm thinking, it's all over here now, you know, this is where I'm going down, and that's it, you know. I just jumped into the sea and I just headed for the island, really, and try and get onto the island. The boat was all over the place. I was just on the rocks high enough. I was out of the way of the boat as it smashed against the rocks, you know.
There's something very sad about seeing a boat in that position. But fiberglass can be replaced. People can't.
It does give me a much brighter outlook on things, you know. I look at things totally different now. Every day is a happy day, and it's just changed my life, my whole outlook on life.
With volunteers on call 24 hours a day and weekly training sessions, lifeboat stations become homes from home and fellow crew members a second family.
I'm so happy to launch.
I don't have many people I socialise with outside of Lifeboat, actually. I don't want to use the word family. I wouldn't want to be related to some of them, although I am related to some of them.
Thanks, sir. Lovely job.
When we're out on the shout, if anything happens, I know they have my back, and that goes for everyone.
Okay, everybody ready to go?
Okay, clear.
When we go out on the boat, we're a team.
What a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon.
Working together and an extended family supporting each other and learning from each other all the time. That's probably the biggest asset we all have with each other.
1, 2, 3, go RNLI!
A bit like a dysfunctional family, I'd say. Yeah, lots of different characters.
Yeah.
I'm probably seen as a bit of a bossy mum.
The chalk cliffs of Dorset's Jurassic coast attract millions of holidaymakers each year, seeking the timeless delights of picturesque seaside resorts like Swanage.
Swanage is your classic Victorian seaside town. We've got beautiful sea out at one side and rolling hills on the other, so it pretty much caters for everything that you could want, really.
It is very much a holiday town, and during summer, everybody's in a good mood, everyone's having fun.
Summer is also peak season for the Swanage lifeboat crew, with more than 2/3 of their call-outs taking place between May and September.
You can be launched to pretty much anything, and it could be 2 or 3 times a day. We can start the morning chasing flamingos out to sea, lunchtime dealing with injured climbers, and then in the evening we can be dealing with people who have been cut off by the tide, so sometimes it feels like the page is going off every 5 minutes.
Perched at the southern end of Swanage Bay, a lifeboat station has watched over these waters since 1875. The current crew numbers 33 and is as tight-knit as they come.
We socialise together, we all have a good time together, and I think that helps when we're on shouts, and I think that's a really important part of it.
A lot of us have known each other for our whole lives, and also the guy that you've trained with or you're stood next to, he might save your life one night, you know, and so you've got to be pretty tight for that.
Mum, that's you.
A key part of this lifeboat family are brothers Matt and Gavin, the latest in a long line of crew members.
We've been on the crew together for nearly 20 years now. Dad was on the crew here just short of 40 years, so he sort of brought us into lifeboating as kids, as we were just about old enough to join. Lifeboating's been in our family since it started here at Swanage, since the very first days of the pulling and the sailing lifeboats. One of our family members had been on it right from the start. Do you want to go up in the radar seat?
Jack, can you hear me? Over.
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're quite proud of our family history. So bringing my kids down the lifeboat station, getting them involved, it's just something else we do as a family.
Who's gonna put a helmet on? You're all gonna put a helmet on. Okay, I'll start with here.
From being christened on the lifeboat to spending all of our summers in front of the boathouse, you know, we were always going to go down that route. So, who's going to be in charge? Who's the helmsman?
Me.
All right, Jude's the helmsman. Lifeboating can take its strain on family life. Missed dinners, missed bedtimes. You know, that does take its toll. But I think also, on a lifeboat, I've seen some of the best sunrises, amazing sunsets. It's my happiest place. I think when we're at sea, it is my happiest place.
A gusty morning in June. A strong southwesterly wind has cleared the usually packed beaches.
The sun was out, but it was still, there was a strong offshore breeze.
It was one of those days that you think that the page is not going to go off because you're thinking who's going to be out in those conditions.
A call comes in from the Coast Guard. The strong winds have blown 2 paddleboarders away from the shore and out to sea.
I was surprised that anyone would even think about going out in those sort of windy conditions.
The thing about paddleboarding is downwind, it's a piece of cake. Once you turn around into the wind, you paddle and paddle and paddle and paddle, and you're just not going anywhere.
Within minutes, the Swanage crew launch their inshore D-class lifeboat and head to location at its top speed of 25 knots.
Paddleboarders in difficulties about 1 kilometre out from Knoll Beach. The female appear to be drifting with the tide of it.
They're about half a mile or a mile off the shore. And that gives you a bit of a sort of sense of we need to get there quick.
PCA? 10 minutes.
If they're moving off on a 30-mile-an-hour wind, they're going to move quite fast, quite quickly, and we need to get there before we lose their last location.
Beyond the shelter of the bay, a force 6 wind is whipping up the sea into a metre-high swell.
There's quite a lot of power behind each wave, so every time you go through it, it impacts the boat and impacts you and your body as a person.
Being able to sit on a paddleboard, that's not going to be much fun.
We're in a lovely lifeboat. If we're thinking it's rough here, it's going to be 10 times worse where they're going to be.
It's not only the lumpy sea conditions that are giving the crew cause for concern.
I could tell from the wind direction that they were quite quickly going to be blown towards the shipping lanes. So we have ships going up into the Solent, to the busy ports of Southampton and Portsmouth, and that bigger stuff won't see you. It's not looking for you, so it won't see you. Then we could be dealing with something potentially quite terrible.
With both time and the weather now against them, the station launches its Shannon all-weather lifeboat to assist with the search.
When looking for a target, the more eyes you can get on the water, the more chance you've got of a successful outcome.
Right, I was going to get eyes on.
In a D-class, you're quite low to the sea. We're hoping that they're using their paddles to wave at us. We're hoping that they're trying to get our attention, because spotting 2 heads in the sea bobbing round is quite difficult.
Especially on a day like that day where the sea was kicking up white horses.
Knowing the current could be carrying the casualties into the shipping lanes, the crew raced to their last reported location to intercept them.
Swanage Oscar, Swanage Oscar, Swanage RP, Swanage RP. We're just about a kilometre off. Have you got eyes on the casualty, Ever?
When we got to the reported position, which was roughly 1 kilometre east of Studland Bay, we got there and there was no persons to be seen.
We knew the ALB was on its way, so we got them to come across the bay a bit further out to sweep in and catch anything coming in.
So then we made a turn to starboard, started heading out. This helm, I was looking straight ahead at where I was going. When you spot them, you get a sense of relief that they're both there as well. That was a major factor in it.
So, Swanage RP, we're on scene with the casualties, Ever. Hiya! Hi, guys!
The 2 casualties seemed pretty well. They were pleased to see us. They actually paddled towards us when we got there, and yeah, they were quite relieved.
I think they were very tired, and I think it was only a matter of time before they would have found themselves washing over towards the Isle of Wight.
Do you jump on?
Right.
Yeah, get in, yeah.
The feeling you get when you actually are on that boat and you realise, OK, it's over, we're safe, It's an overwhelming sense of relief, overwhelming sense of massive gratitude.
Thank you.
Come on in.
Oh, hello. My arms hurt. Oh my God.
By the time we got to them, they weren't going to paddle back. They were in trouble. They needed a lifeboat. And luckily for them, they got two.
Afternoon, everyone all right?
Yeah, we are now.
On an adventure.
We decided that the inshore boat could keep the boards and that the two ladies could come on board the ALB where we could warm them up, a cup of tea, chocolate, and just to really make sure that they're okay.
The casualties, Claudia and Nikki, had taken their brand new paddleboards to try them out at Studland Bay, just up the coast from Swanage.
We thought, yes, it's windy, but actually it should be quite sheltered in that bay. So we thought we were good to go, and off we went. It looks like it's dead easy when people are gracefully gliding along, but actually it's definitely harder than it looks.
I was literally petrified that actually I couldn't get this thing to point where I wanted it to go.
Definitely within 10 minutes we thought, actually, this isn't great. It was the speed we were being taken out to sea. Then looked back and realised, oh, that's the ferry. And I said, we are really close to the shipping lane.
We could actually be a dot in the ocean to a ship and they wouldn't see us because they're so ginormous. And we'd been squished.
After drifting almost a mile from shore, Nikki noticed that she still had signal on her phone, called her parents back on the beach, then waited for help.
We knew help was coming, so we were really relieved at that. The best things you can do is keep motivated, keep moving.
I was making up songs, I think, whilst paddling. So we did that until we saw the big boat and the little boat, and we could see them come in, and we were like, yes.
Have you been out already today, or that's the first job?
First.
Oh, exciting for you.
No one's crazy enough to go out in this wind.
Yeah, this is very true.
An hour and a half after paddling out on their boards, Claudia and Nikki are finally dropped back on dry land.
I can laugh about it now, because we survived and we were lucky enough to be rescued.
Thank you.
Could have been a hugely different story. So, yes, it's embarrassing, but we might not be here today if it wasn't for them.
After a shout like this, you're always happy that there's been a good outcome.
So, Swans, for your information, we're now back on our slipway, closing down RT, over.
The washdown of the boat always goes a lot smoother when people are laughing and joking, so there was generally a good feeling that, you know, we'd helped two people who, without our assistance, would have been in quite a lot of trouble.
The Yorkshire coastline, stretching from the River Tees to the River Humber, contains some of the most scenic cliffs in England, as well as some of the best crab and lobster fishing in the world.
Most of the shellfish that's landed in this country, crabs and lobsters and that, gets exported across the world. I think there's 5% stays in the country, the rest of it goes elsewhere.
While big modern fishing fleets operate out of harbour towns like Bridlington and Hull, in the small town of Withensea, they still launch boats directly off the beach, as they have done for centuries.
Withensea is the back of beyond. It's that place yon side of Hull, and then you go any further, you fall in the sea. But I love the place. Born and bred, I love it.
Everybody's very friendly in Withensea. You can be walking along the road and you can say good morning and they'd say good morning back.
Despite the long history of fishing in Withensea, there's only been a lifeboat station here since the mid-70s. Before that, they relied on flank stations and the local fishing fleet to look after their own.
Fishing's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, I say. There's all the crab pots, the ropes, the anchors. And some get a rope around the leg or their arm or anywhere wrapped around and go over the side when they're shooting the gear. So it's definitely a dangerous game for them all.
Every year in the UK, an average of 10 fishermen lose their lives at sea. As well as the dangers of fishing, the Withensea lifeboat crew also have summer tourists, a wind farm and the notorious North Sea to contend with.
North Sea is a cold, unforgiving monster of a sea. Some of the tides we get, some of the storms we get are just the biblical, basically. It can do a lot of damage and destroy things.
A bright, clear day in July. Many of Withensea's fishing boats are out at sea, making the most of the good weather, including a well-known local boat called the Misty Blue.
The day of the call-out, it was a nice warm summer's day. I rung the skipper of the Misty Blue to say that was going to do his garden, which we'd been doing on a Sunday. I said I didn't even get 2 words of my sentence out, and he was just screaming down the phone, "Pete's over the side, Pete's over the side."
Pete, a local Withensea man known to the lifeboat crew, is missing after going overboard 3 miles up the coast. The boat's skipper has put out a mayday.
We do every single job to the highest standard we can do, but I think it accelerates when you know the people involved.
The station's D-class inshore lifeboat is launched immediately.
One coming on now!
When you're in the water, every second counts because A, the currents can get you. You can get cold water shock. There's a number of factors that have got to be taken into consideration, so the quicker you get to somebody, the better. The more chance of finding them.
Search now, so we are looking for a man overboard, person in the water.
More information comes over the radio. The missing man wasn't wearing a life jacket, but may be clinging to a life ring thrown in by the skipper of the fishing boat.
On the Coast Guard Withensea lifeboat commencing shoreline search northwards from current position.
When you're searching for a person in the water, 9 times out of 10 you're looking for a head or their arms. So it's a needle in a haystack, because you think your head's quite big until you're in the North Sea, and it's just literally a pin drop.
Seen someone dead end! Yeah, I got it.
The sea plays tricks with you.
Oh, wood! Yeah. Yeah, looks like wood.
A flat calm day might not be so bad, but when you've got a little bit of a chop, a bit of a swell, they could be behind a wave or anything.
Do you want to go in a bit closer, just in case he's rolling in the surf?
The bigger the tide, the stronger the current, obviously. There was a lot of tide running that day. I think it was about 6 metre.
Sean, if you look along the surf line and seaward, I'll do the shoreline.
The mayday also summons a Coast Guard helicopter, the all-weather boat from Flank Station Humber, and the independent lifeboat from Hornsey. And as word gets out that a fisherman is in trouble, more local vessels join the search. An hour after the alarm sounded, a small fleet is at sea looking for Pete.
Altogether, there was at least 20 boats. There was windcats, fishing boats from Bridlington, fishing boats from Hornsey. Once the fishing community had man overboard, they all pulled together. Tell the Coast Guard you're going to go on through the last boat and the shoreline. Tell them that you'll be on the 6th, that we've got all the communication. Yeah, sure.
As the lifeboat heads further out, the crew spots something large in the water. It's a life ring.
When we spotted the life ring, I honestly thought we'd found him. I just thought he'd be in it, just waiting for us, and then just pop up and say, "Where you been?" But he just wasn't there.
From the Coast Guard, this is Withensea Lifeboats. We've come across the life ring.
To come across an empty life ring at sea when somebody's gone missing, it's not a nice thought at all.
And we'll continue search south from there, keeping good observer.
You've got to put it to the back of your head briefly and carry on, because at the end of the day, somebody needs your help and you're there to help them.
The crew resume their search for Pete, following the current away from the life ring. While back on land, the news that he's missing reaches his family.
His mother's seen out my caravan window. She said, "There's a fast boat out there, Arthur." So I got up my knockers and I had a look. I said, "Oh, it's a spare lifeboat." Then I got a phone call. "Have you heard about Peter?" I said, "What do you mean have I heard about what about him?" So he said he'd been missing 2 hours. So I went to Withensea to see what was happening. And they said he'd gone overboard.
What's that there?
This is number 2, further search instructions if you're ready to copy over.
Didn't know what to do, and everything was in a panic. I had his mother there, his brother there. I'm ringing his sister up, and then me other family, to let them know before it all come up from me, say, from someone else.
The search enters its third hour with still no sign of Pete.
It started sinking a bit. It's been a long time now. Nobody's seen him. And there was 2 helicopters as well. Thinking there's a big area here being covered, and where is he?
The fact that it was going on so long with so many assets on scene to help out, it wasn't looking like a good outcome.
One by one, the local vessels assisting the search head home as they run low on fuel.
When the boats are breaking off and the search is getting scaled down, it's an horrible feeling. There was still that glimmer of hope that was going to find him that day, but reality has started kicking in a bit.
The chances of finding Pete dwindle with each passing hour, but the crew keep on looking.
We was looking for 5 hours, and I'd have done it another 5 hours as well. You want to find them, you don't want to stop looking until you find them. And we don't stop looking until we get told to stop looking.
It got late in the day, and they made the decision to call the search off.
To be stood down when someone's gone over the back of a boat and you've not found them, it's not very nice at all. We like to bring people back.
It's a person at sea, you know, they're on their own, aren't they? And you just want to get them back for their families and stuff.
You won't found them, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the worst part about it.
As I walked up the slipway, I walked straight into Pete's dad, and I just didn't know what to say to him. He was asking where he was and what had happened, and after about, I don't know, 30 seconds of not being able to say out, I says, I don't know, Arthur, I just don't know, I couldn't answer. I felt useless. I just felt like, well, I hadn't achieved what I went out to do.
As soon as the search was called off, we thought, well, that's it. If we haven't got him now, they're not going to find him. That was it, you know, you just didn't know what to do. And everybody was just, you're not going to see him again.
A body found off the Bridlington coast has been confirmed as that of a fisherman who went missing earlier this
Pete
week.
was found 3 weeks later. Bridlington Lifeboat launched for him. I think they give a position of approximately about 20 to 25 mile east of Bridlington where they picked him up. Out of respect, they kept the radio quiet as they could.
I say, it was me rock. He was his mother's hero. He was everybody. He was a good lad. Yeah, I'm a grieving father. His mother's grieving, Gemma's grieving, his brothers, his sisters, everybody. We're all grieving for him. We miss him every day.
The sense of loss in the town was massive, because with him being so young, everybody knew him as well. He's got a young family, and everybody just pulled together.
Some mornings I'd go down to launch. I remember Pete, he'd just jump out from behind some crab pots messing about, and that's just how he was. Always happy, be laughing and joking, and he's definitely missed.
Dealing with loss of life is one of the heaviest burdens the volunteers have to carry.
When you come back from a successful shout, it's a great feeling. And you go home with a smile on your face. When it's had a negative outcome, Everyone's very supportive back at the station, but you can't help but go home and you're going to have a moment on your own to consider what's happened.
It's at times like these that crew members rely on the support of their families.
You can't be a lifeboat crew member or part of the team without family support. It's critical.
It's just good to go home and talk to mum and dad, just talk to friends as well.
The support that they get from the families of the volunteers, that's a very important element. And they are really the unsung heroes in the background.
Come here then, David. 20-minute throw line. I'm going to try and land it in that bucket.
In the Lancashire seaside town of Blackpool, Dave has been a member of the local lifeboat crew family for over half his life.
I was only 15 when I started, which, you know, wouldn't be allowed these days, but 20-odd years later, you know, you rack up a lot of experience in the world of lifeboating and being at sea generally.
But unlike some families, this one actually plays nicely and gets along.
The aim is to get over the bucket, not get into the bucket.
Colin and I, we started, I think probably now at 6 months of each other. It seems like an awful long time ago now. So yeah, we've grown up on the boats together.
Who's next?
Right.
Brownie points for getting in.
As we were both starting new and fresh, and neither of us knew much about the boat or the station.
Swing it underarm, not overarm.
It was a similar experience, and it helped us to grow our friendship.
Oh! Straight in.
As every crew member knows, when this second family calls, any commitments you have with your other one take an instant back seat.
Pager goes off. You can have different feelings depending on when it goes off, to be honest. The pager went off 10 minutes before England's semi-final game in the World Cup.
I've been in the middle of a casino, and it was nice and quiet, just all the roulette tables going. And the pages went off then. The doormen were coming in, wondering what the alarms were, and that was a bit of an awkward conversation. We need to go, we're lifeboat crew. No, you're not. What's going on?
We're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and having a crew available is just part and parcel of, you know, running the station.
But on the 27th of May, there was one commitment even Dave couldn't cancel.
One of our senior helmsmen, Dave, was getting married, and we had decided before the wedding day that there would be some crew which would be available, so we had to sacrifice going to the church, even though we were invited.
The wedding day was fantastic, service was fantastic.
We kind of thought it'll never go off. The chances of it going off then are slim.
I therefore proclaim that they are now husband and wife.
And then the pages went off, so we thought, you've got to be joking. Dave never heard the pages go off at the time because we naturally had them all on silent.
But we got into the wedding car to head off. Just spotted out the corner of my eye the crew, and my sixth sense sort of thought, I think I know what's happened here. I think that's the first time where, I mean, I wasn't wearing my pager, but knowing there was a call out and knowing that you were within a distance that you could respond.
I think if David went, Lindsay would have gone ballistic. Yeah, it would have been a quick divorce.
A call has come in about a kayak that's capsized 5 miles up the coast, leaving 2 casualties in the water.
When you hear people in the water, you've got to get to them quickly.
Our average launch time is anything from 6 minutes to 9 minutes. If they capsized and they were clinging to the kayak, then as time goes on, they're becoming weaker, they're becoming colder, cold shock could set in, and the potential and the risk of them drowning is huge.
Blackpool is one of only 2 stations in the country to house 3 lifeboats. 2 smaller D-class inshore boats and a larger, faster B-class Atlantic 85.
The D-class had already launched. So I jumped up onto the Atlantic, took control of that, and then we launched.
It's clear!
and headed straight to the last reported position. So the dangers at Blackpool are that the currents can be quite strong on a big spring tide.
And the water was cold that day and it was a little bit choppy as well. When you get washed out to sea in cold water, then your muscles become cramped, you become cramped, you become tired, then it becomes very easy for you to start aspirating on the water and losing consciousness.
On the way there, we caught up with the D-class and started to overtake. Then the radio call come from the Coast Guard to say that the casualties had made it ashore. 2 other people had swum out to the 2 that capsized with the kayak. All 4 people and the kayak had made it back to shore, although they were asking for immediate medical attention. And as we had Brent on board, who's a paramedic, we decided to carry on to the scene.
Confirmed, I'm calling ambulance now for you.
You want to go ashore, Brent?
How deep is it?
Oh, you'll be all right there, you?
The conditions were ideal for Brent. I could get the boat in close enough to the beach where he could jump out, and he was only chest deep in the sea.
Luckily, I'm quite tall. I'm 6'6", so when I was put into the water, there wasn't much swimming to do. So when I went ashore, each patient was triaged rapidly, and then when the ambulances arrived, we were able to then hand over.
With the casualties safely in the hands of the paramedics, the crew's thoughts returned to their previous engagement.
Was it? Was it embarrassing? Did it go off halfway through? No, we just finished.
We were discussing the wedding, saying, I need to get back, hopefully won't miss the food, all the usual things you think about with weddings. Started making his way back to the boat.
Lifeboat, this is Holyhead Coast Guard. Yeah, could you possibly proceed to the river wire for a kite surfer in distress? Over?
That's when we got tasked to the second job.
As in this yacht? Yeah.
Typical. It's just typical. But then you've just got to think, well, we're here, this is what we're here to do.
This shout is to a struggling kite surfer just north of their current position.
This kite surfer, he was last seen floating out to sea from Fleetwood, and there was grave concerns for him.
The crew raced to the casualty's last known location before he can drift into the busy shipping lanes just beyond.
We made it round to the buoys that they'd given us the position of. Because it was fairly flat, you could see him quite clearly from quite a distance. So the only concerns I had at the time was he was over quite a high bank, and I didn't want to beach our boat because it would have been difficult for us to get it off.
The average kite surfer's rig has over 100 metres of line. The crew also have to be careful not to foul their propeller on any loose strands as they draw closer.
Can you stand? We're approaching slow.
He had his board and his kite all wrapped up and tangled up.
I'm connected to it. You're connected to it, right? You're still connected to it. That's all right, we've got hold of you. It's all right.
He was very happy to see us.
And then sweater, sir. Side sweater.
With the outgoing tide, he was just going further out to sea. And he would have just carried on going out to sea, out towards the Isle of Man.
Okay.
He didn't have a buoyancy aid on, so if nobody had turned up, he would have got tireder and tireder, and who knows what would have happened to him or where he would have ended up.
Right.
I remember him saying, I reckon my wife is still on the beach, sunbathing asleep, and probably has no idea what trouble I'm in. So we got him into the boat, and 2 minutes later, passed him over to Fleetwood.
The kite surfer is transferred to the lifeboat from neighbouring station Fleetwood for the trip back to shore, leaving the Blackpool crew free to head for home.
No more jobs, Fleet.
Shot straight back to Blackpool, got the boat cleaned up, got it all tidied away, and headed back to the wedding venue. And we got there just in time for the meal to start. So the only bit we'd missed was the pictures, really.
The last 2 arrived back just doing up the top buttons and tidying the ties up and dusting a bit of chalk off the suits and redoing the hair and in they came.
Probably deep down, Dave would have been a bit gutted to have missed a job, but I think the wedding was far more important. He'd rather do that.
Being involved in the lifeboat, it's a sense of service and a sense of wanting to help others. You need people to step up and give up their time to do all sorts of things in life and in the community and in the town, and this is just one of those things.
Back on the Dorset coast, the patch covered by the Swanage lifeboat stretches for 20 miles from Poole Harbour to Kimmeridge Bay, an area that generates more than 70 shouts a year.
Busiest time of year has to be the summertime for us. We get some people trying to cross the channel in small inflatable boats. We get some people trying to sail around the coast of England in a 10-foot sailing boat. This year we've rescued a large inflatable unicorn that was drifting out to sea.
But even in the heart of winter, when the lifeboat calls, the crew must come running.
The day was a pretty much standard January day in Swanage. The weather was pretty rubbish, it was cold. I was welcoming my friend who was coming down for the weekend and my pager went off. I said, I've got to go, beer's in the fridge, I'll see you later. And I ran out the door.
My plans for the evening were get the kids in bed, open the wine, put the bad telly on, and the pager goes off then. My wife gives me one look and I think, yeah, sorry about that, I've got to go.
The first thing we heard was that 2 people had been cut off by the tide down by Old Harry. A lot of the more experienced crew said, cut off by the tide at Old Harry. That's a bit weird.
The Old Harry Rocks are a famous local landmark, jutting out to sea at the most eastern point of the Jurassic coast and a well-known hazard for boats.
Legend has it that Old Harry was a pirate who used to hide behind the rocks and entice ships in. He used to go out and pirate them and rob them and pillage, things that pirates like to do.
It's not really a place you can access as a walker. To have 2 people cut off by the tide there is a rarity.
Attention, lifeboats launching and crew will be arriving.
So when we got tasked, it was around dusk, so there was some light, but it was rapidly getting darker.
The team launched their D-class inshore lifeboat and head off at speed to the casualties' location, 4 miles up the coast.
They received a second phone call to say that they were actually closer to the Pinnacle, which is a bit more southerly than Old Harry.
Pinnacle, 10 minutes.
And then as we went across the bay, we were informed that the guys had actually phoned it in themselves, which was very lucky for the position that they were in.
And they're going to use their mobile phones to attract our attention.
So we were keeping a watch for any light or any objects that we could see, like the clothing.
Ordinarily cut off by the sea, Old Harry and the surrounding coastline become accessible 3 or 4 times a year during spring tides, when low tides are at their lowest, then spring back fast and high.
Right, keep your eyes out.
When we realised the tide was coming in, there was a bit more urgency. It was starting to creep up the cliffs a little bit. The sea was definitely a little bit rougher. The light was fading.
We've had a few fatalities around our coastline where people have been swept into caves and not been able to come out. That is always present in your mind, the worst case scenario. As we were on our search up the cliff, we were looking for all the nooks and crannies, looking up towards the Pinnacle. There, in the cave. Right, this is going to be fruity.
The cave the casualties are in is rapidly being swamped by the rising tide, and they're now trapped.
Once we've located them in the back of the cave, things had to change quite quickly.
Right, let's get on scene.
The things that went through my mind is how I was going to get in there. The seabed is very unforgiving in that area. There's boulders everywhere. It's very jaggedy. I'm in a boat full of air, and the last thing I want to do is pop it or snap the engine off.
Set up for a veer.
Cool.
The moment when I thought it might be more challenging than we first thought was when Matt called for a veer.
It's going to be quick, that tide's pissing him.
Inshore lifeboats usually approach land bow first, but when conditions are this treacherous, they drop anchor.
Raise the plate!
Turn the boat around and inch towards the shoreline in reverse, a process known as veering.
Okay, deploy!
Veering's pretty much the most dangerous thing you can do on the ILB.
The danger with the veering is we don't know what's underneath the boat.
Right, we've got rocks all in here. Right, make it off.
If we'd hit a rock and lost our propeller, we've lost our source of power. Then puts us at risk, and we can't help the casualties very well.
Right, I need an oar as well. Depth check, it's not a lot.
The crew battle the surf as they struggle to get closer to shore.
I tell you what, we're going in. We're just going to have to hold it.
But with less than 10 minutes of light remaining and the tide filling the cave and sweeping the lifeboat onto submerged rocks, Helm Matt abandons the veer.
Sometimes you try stuff and it doesn't necessarily work out, so you do something else. Plan can still change even if you've got a plan, yeah.
The casualties have been out in the cold for over 5 hours. Nightfall is pushing the temperature even lower, and sea temperatures are in single figures. Hypothermia is now becoming a serious danger.
Right, listen up, this is the plan. I'm going to reverse it in a bit. I'm going to cut the engine, put the boat in. Alice, you go in.
Yep.
If it's not too lively in there, we'll put jackets on in there, but if it is, we'll just get them in.
We're going this time first, we're going to hold the boat.
Yeah, hold the boat head to sea. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, right, going in.
So plan B was to reverse the boat, and then when we were shallow enough, pulling the engine up and then getting out and walking it back in.
Right, crew out.
When you get out of the boat, you hope that you can touch the bottom. That is a moment that you sort of take a big intake of air.
Rocks everywhere. Rock. Swell on.
But once you found your footing, and yeah, it's all right.
Right, Alice, you go.
Finally making it to shore, the crew now have to extract the casualties from the rapidly flooding cave.
It was uneven underfoot. There are a lot of boulders. Tried my best to walk in, but realised quite quickly it was quicker to swim into the cave.
Hey guys! Hi, how you doing?
I first saw the two casualties. It was two lads stood in the cave. They looked scared. I think this obviously wasn't in their plan as well.
Right, need to go! Right. Need to go, come on!
I was holding on very tight to that boat. What I didn't want is for a big wave to come through and pick the front of the boat up and flip it over in that cave.
Quick as you can, Alice!
You really have to rock, okay?
Yeah, big rock there.
The boat was in such a situation that we just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. So we bundled the guys onto the boat and tried to make our way out of there.
So the first glimpse of the two casualties I got were two guys in jeans, just looked like they were out for a Sunday walk. They were very quiet once we got them in the boat. I don't think they realised exactly the severity of their situation and how much we had to do to get in there to get them. We'd done the job, we got them out, and everyone was safe and no one got hurt. That's a big relief.
Salem Swanage RV, that's the 2 casualties recovered. We're going to need our ALB to extract to safety, over.
I adore the sea. Being away from the town or the city or the people, it's sort of soaking up almost the more primitive side of yourself.
Joe and his friend had been making the most of the unusually low tide by attempting to walk from Studland to Swanage around Old Harry.
It was a special wolf moon at spring tide, which meant that the water would be lower than any other time of the year. So we were hoping that we could explore for a little bit and then hopefully just about beat the tide. We had made it just past the pinnacle when things started to go wrong. We looked around, we realised we weren't going to be able to make it. The sea felt like it was below freezing. Luckily, we'd stopped by this cave. We decided it was best to wade into the cave and call the Coast Guard. Once the water had started to come in and we were being pushed further, we felt very trapped. With the silence in the cave, it felt like quite a long time between the end of the call and spotting the lifeboat and the lights of it. I don't think there's any question about it. That crew saved my life.
Thank you.
They were very lucky to be able to get a call out to the Coast Guard. That could have very easily, a couple of hours later, been a missing person.
Oh, that was a bit rough, wasn't it? Ooh, well done, mate. It was very rewarding to be part of that team that potentially saved 2 lives that day.
Well, I got home a couple of hours later and there was some beer left, so we cracked those open and then we went out for a few more.
Since launching in 1824, the RNLI has saved over 140,000 lives. But it's often the lives that are lost that stick with the crews longest.
After a call out like what we had, you look around you and realise it's, no matter who you are, it can all be gone in a second, and you do start to look at life a little bit different.
In Withensea, almost a year after losing Pete, the community still feels his loss.
Yeah, the cliff top, we take flowers up there for Peter, in memory of him. I go down there and talk to him and go and have a can of beer with him.
The sea's cruel, it can take you. If Pete had a life jacket on, this might not have happened.
All fishermen should wear life jackets, it should be compulsory. I don't want it to happen to anybody else's parents. I don't think there is anywhere, I just miss him every day, all day. Yeah, I just think about him all the time.